The massive crystalline spires of the capital stretched toward the twin suns, their surfaces reflecting light in patterns that would have blinded human eyes. But wasn't looking up at the architectural marvels. His attention remained fixed on the ornate doors of the royal chambers, where he stood guard in his crisp blue uniform, plasma rifle held at attention. 3 years since Earth had been conquered, since humanity had been scattered across the galaxy as servants, laborers, and in rare cases like his, palace guards. The Empire had swept through human space like a cosmic hurricane, their advanced technology making Earth's defenses look like children playing with sticks. Had been a Marine sergeant when the invasion began. Now he was Guard Unit 7742, assigned to protect the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. The irony wasn't lost on him that humans, considered barely above animals by most alien species, were trusted to guard royalty. But the head quickly learned that humans possessed something most species lacked: an almost pathological loyalty once trust was earned, and an ability to anticipate threats that bordered on precognitive. The doors shimmered and dissolved, revealing Queen in all her ethereal beauty. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, her translucent blue skin seemed to glow from within, and the flowing robes that moved around her gravity itself. 4 delicate arms gestured gracefully as she moved, her large, multifaceted eyes scanning the corridor. Behind her walked Prince Consort, her husband of 2 centuries, where embodied elegance radiated barely contained power. His darker blue skin bore the ritual scars of a warrior, and his 6 arms spoke of his hexapod heritage. The political marriage had united 2 powerful systems, but had observed enough to know that genuine affection existed between them. "Guard," Queen's voice chimed like distant bells, not bothering to look directly at. "We shall be in the observatory for the duration of the 3rd sun cycle. You will maintain your position here." Snap to attention. "Yes, Your Majesty." She glided past without another glance, as was typical. In 3 years, Queen had perhaps spoken 50 words directly to him. He was furniture to her, a necessary but forgettable piece of the palace machinery. Prince Consort, however, always acknowledged him with a slight nod, a gesture that had initially surprised but had become routine. As the royal couple disappeared down the crystalline corridor, settled into the meditation stance that helped pass the long hours. His enhanced hearing, a genetic modification all human guards received, picked up the soft conversations of distant servants and the hum of the palace's energy systems. It was during the 2nd hour of his watch that first noticed something amiss. The pattern was subtle, too subtle for most beings to detect, but had learned to read the palace like a book, to notice when even the smallest detail was out of place. A maintenance drone had passed by 17 minutes ago. Standard protocol called for maintenance checks every 23 minutes in this sector. The delay was minimal, but it broke the pattern, made a mental note, and continued his vigil. 20 minutes later, another anomaly. A servant had emerged from the service corridor carrying a tray of crystals, the Queen's favorite delicacy. But the servant was a species known for their allergic reaction to crystal residue. No servant would be assigned to handle them. His pulse quickened, but his expression remained neutral. Years of military training and 3 years of palace duty had taught him the value of appearing oblivious while cataloging every detail. His eyes tracked the false servant as they headed toward the observatory wing. The 3rd anomaly confirmed his suspicions. Energy fluctuations in the palace grid showed microspikes every few minutes, the signature of cloaked surveillance equipment powering up for brief scans. Someone was mapping the palace defenses in real time. Faced a dilemma that had no good solution. Palace protocol forbade guards from abandoning their posts without direct orders or imminent threat to royal persons. But if his suspicions were correct, there was already an imminent threat, one that was being carefully orchestrated to avoid triggering standard security measures. He activated his comm unit, using the discrete frequency reserved for security alerts. Guard Unit 7742 to Central Command, requesting immediate supervisor response to Royal Chambers entrance. Potential security anomaly. The response came within 30 seconds. Central Command to 7742, supervisor on is responding, maintain position. New supervisor on, well, a military veteran who had initially viewed human guards with skepticism, but had grown to respect their instincts. If anyone would listen to his concerns, it would be on. The supervisor arrived within 5 minutes, his own imposing 8-foot frame covered in the dark purple uniform of palace security. Report 7742. Sir, I've observed 3 protocol deviations in the past hour. Quickly outlined his observations, watching On's large eyes narrow with each detail. You believe these are coordinated? On asked. Yes, sir. The timing suggests a systematic probe of our security response patterns. On was silent for a moment, his 4 arms moving in the gesture that indicated deep thought among his species. Your assessment of threat level. Hi, sir. If I'm correct, someone is preparing for an operation during this shift cycle. Remain at your post. I will verify your observations and deploy additional security assets accordingly. As On departed, felt a mixture of relief and continued apprehension. He had done what he could within the constraints of his position, but the feeling of impending danger only grew stronger. The 4th hour of his watch brought the confirmation he had dreaded. The energy fluctuations had intensified, and now he could hear the faint whisper of movement in the service passages that honeycombed the palace walls. Multiple contacts, moving with purpose toward the observatory wing. His comm unit crackled to life. 7742, this is On. Your observations were accurate. We have identified at least 12 unauthorized individuals within the palace. Royal Guard units are responding, but we need you to maintain visual on your sector. Do not engage unless directly threatened. Understood, sir. Checked his plasma rifle's charge indicator, full capacity. His sidearm was similarly ready. 3 years of palace duty had included extensive training in the layout and defensive positions of every corridor and chamber. If trouble came his way, he would be ready. The trouble, when it came, was not what he expected. Prince Consort appeared around the corner, moving quickly but not running. His expression was calm, but strained eye caught the subtle signs of tension in his posture and gait. Guard, said as he approached, there has been a change of plans. The Queen requires immediate escort to the secure chambers. You will accompany me to retrieve her. Every instinct possessed screamed that something was wrong. His tone was proper, his words reasonable, but the micro-expressions on his alien features told a different story. The slight dilation of his secondary pupils, the way his 3rd and 4th arms moved in barely perceptible patterns, these were tells had learned to read during his years of service. Sir, my orders are to maintain position at the royal chambers until relieved by proper authority. His expression shifted almost imperceptibly. I am proper authority, guard. The Queen is in danger. Made a split-second decision that would change everything. Of course, Your Highness, lead the way. As they moved toward the observatory wing, activated a discreet emergency beacon hidden in his uniform's collar. The signal would alert supervisor on that guard unit 7742 was moving from his assigned position under potential duress. The walk through the palace corridors felt like an eternity. Maintained casual conversation, asking about observations during the watch and commenting on the palace's security measures. But underneath the pleasant chatter, could feel the prince consort's attention focused on him like a predator studying its prey. They passed through 3 security checkpoints, each one waved through by authority. But at each checkpoint, noticed the same thing, the guards were not species he recognized. They wore proper uniforms and carried proper identification, but their body language and movement patterns were all wrong. The observatory wing stretched before them, its transparent aluminum walls offering a panoramic view of the capital city below. The Queen could be seen in the distance, standing at the primary observation deck, her graceful form silhouetted against the beyond. She is beautiful, is she not? Said, his voice carrying an odd note. Yes, Your Highness. Do you know, guard, that humans are among the few species capable of appreciating beauty? Most find us too alien, too strange, but humans have always been adaptable. Said nothing, but his grip on his rifle shifted slightly. 3 years you have served faithfully, continued. 3 years of perfect loyalty. Tell me, do you ever wonder why you were chosen for this position? The question caught off guard. I assumed it was due to my service record and security clearance, Your Highness. His laugh was like grinding crystal. Oh, it was much more than that. You see, humans have a particular talent that makes them invaluable as guards. You can sense deception, read micro-expressions, detect threats that our technology cannot. It's quite remarkable, really. They were now within 50 meters of the Queen. Close enough for to see that she was not alone. 3 figures in maintenance garb worked on equipment near the observation platform. Too many for a routine maintenance call, and their movements were too coordinated. "You've sensed it, haven't you?" said softly. "The wrongness, the threat." His blood ran cold. "Yes, Your Highness." "Good, because that threat, my dear guard, is me." The admission hung in the air like a blade. Felt time slow as his training took over, but was already moving. The prince consort's 6 arms blurred into motion, 2 reaching for concealed weapons while the others moved to grapple. Threw himself sideways, his rifle coming up as he rolled behind a decorative pillar. Plasma bolts seared the air where he had been standing, leaving molten gouges in the crystalline floor. "You cannot escape, human," called out. "And you cannot save her. This has been planned for too long, orchestrated too carefully." Keyed his comm unit. "Emergency, emergency. This is Guard 7742. Prince Consort is hostile. Repeat, Prince Consort is the threat. Observatory wing, immediate assistance required." On's voice crackled through static. 7742, confirm your last transmission. "Is attempting to harm the Queen. I am engaging." More plasma fire forced deeper behind cover. Through the transparent walls, he could see the maintenance workers moving closer to Queen, who appeared oblivious to the danger. Her attention was focused on the stellar phenomena beyond the observation deck. Made a decision that went against every tactical principle he had ever learned. Instead of seeking better cover, he broke from his position and sprinted toward the observation deck. Plasma fire chased him, superheating the air around him, but his erratic movement and the cover provided by decorative elements kept him alive. He shouted, abandoning all protocol, "Get down, threat incoming." The Queen turned, her large eyes wide with surprise at hearing her name spoken by a mere guard. That moment of confusion saved her life as one of the maintenance workers. Now revealed as an assassin, fired a weapon that would have struck her center of mass. Tackled the Queen, driving both of them behind the solid base of the observation platform as chaos erupted around them. The other 2 assassins revealed themselves and found himself in a 3-way firefight while trying to protect the most important person in the galaxy. "Why?" Queen gasped, her voice filled with disbelief as she saw her husband of 2 centuries coordinating the attack against her. "Politics," said grimly, returning fire at the closest assassin. "Always politics." The firefight seemed to last forever, but knew it was only minutes before palace security would respond in force. The question was whether he could keep the Queen alive that long. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Surrender the Queen, human, and your death will be quick. Continue to resist, and I will ensure you suffer for days." His response was another burst of plasma fire that forced back into cover. In the brief lull that followed, Queen spoke quietly. "In 3 years you have never spoken my name." "Protocol forbids it, Your Majesty." "Protocol is suspended," she said with desperate humor. "I hereby grant you permission to use my name." Smiled grimly as he spotted palace guards finally entering the far end of the observatory wing. "Thank you. Now stay down while we finish this." The battle that followed would be remembered in palace history as the betrayal of the observatory. By the time the smoke cleared, Prince Consort and his accomplices were either dead or in custody, and Guard Unit 7742 had become the first human in history to be personally thanked by name by the Queen herself. But as stood among the wreckage, checking the Queen for injuries while security teams secured the area, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. His final words before his capture echoed in his mind. "You think you've won, human? This was merely the first move." The game, whatever it was, had only just begun. The interrogation chambers deep beneath the royal palace were designed to break the will of any species in the galaxy. The walls themselves seemed to absorb sound and hope in equal measure, and the restraint fields could hold even the strongest warrior immobile. But as watched through the observation window, Prince Consort appeared almost comfortable in his confinement. "He's been in there for 6 hours, Supervisor On said, his 4 arms crossed in a gesture of frustration. 6 hours, and he hasn't revealed a single useful detail about his conspiracy." Studied the fallen Prince Consort through the reinforced transparent aluminum. 6 arms were secured in individual restraint fields, but his posture remained proud, almost defiant. "What interrogation methods have been used?" Standard neural probe, chemical truth inducement, even the mind link. Nothing. It's as if his memories of the conspiracy have been surgically removed. Or hidden by technology we don't understand, suggested. On's large eyes turned toward him. You have an idea. Maybe, has anyone simply tried talking to him? No technology, no coercion, just conversation. He attempted to assassinate the Queen. Why would he cooperate with casual conversation? Was quiet for a moment, thinking about the strange dynamic he had observed between and Queen over the past 3 years. Because I don't think he wanted to kill her. I think he was forced to. The observation shocked On. Explain. During the attack, he had multiple opportunities to kill both the Queen and me. Instead, he hesitated. His accomplices were the ones pressing the attack. When palace guards arrived, was the first to surrender. You're suggesting he was coerced. I'm suggesting someone wanted us to think he was the mastermind, when he might actually be another victim. On considered this. The Queen has requested to speak with you. She's in the Royal Medical Bay, recovering from the stress of the attack. Made his way through the palace corridors, noting the increased security presence. Every checkpoint now required both biometric and psionic verification, and patrol units moved in groups of 3 instead of the traditional pairs. Queen was indeed in the medical bay, but she looked far from recovered. Her typically luminous blue skin appeared dim, and her graceful movements seemed forced. She was standing before a large holographic display showing surveillance footage from the attack. Your Majesty, said, bowing formally. She replied, and he was surprised to hear her use his actual name instead of his guard designation. Please approach. He moved closer, nodding that she was studying footage of the moments just before the attack began. I have been reviewing the security recordings, she said. Watching my husband's face as he led you toward the observatory. Tell me, what do you see? Studied the hologram. The expression was calm and controlled, but now that knew what to look for, he could see the subtle signs of internal conflict. He appears to be struggling with something, Your Majesty. His micro-expressions suggest reluctance rather than determination. Yes, I see the same thing. She paused the footage at a moment where his face was turned slightly away from the camera. This is the husband I have known for 2 centuries. Whatever drove him to that observatory, it was not hatred for me. Have you spoken with him since the attack? He refuses to see me, claims that he has dishonored himself beyond redemption. His voice carried a pain that transcended species barriers. But I know he is incapable of the coldness required for such a betrayal. Chose his words carefully. Your Majesty, what if the betrayal was not his choice? She turned to face him fully, her large, multifaceted eyes reflecting the medical bay's soft lighting. You believe he was controlled. I believe he was blackmailed or coerced. The question is what could possibly force a prince consort to attempt regicide. Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. His daughter. Your Majesty has a daughter from his first marriage before our union. She lives on Hexapod Prime with her mother, if someone threatened. The pieces began falling into place in his mind. Someone who knew well enough to understand that he would sacrifice everything for his child. Someone with access to Hexapod Prime and the resources to carry out a kidnapping. But who would dare? Hexapod Prime is one of the most secure worlds in the sector. Was already thinking through the implications. Someone with intimate knowledge of royal security protocols. Someone who knew exactly when and how to insert assassins into the palace. Someone who could arrange for to be in the perfect position to be blamed for the attack. An inside job, said, understanding dawning in her voice. More than that, someone with access to the highest levels of government. Someone who would benefit from your death and disgrace. They looked at each other as the same terrible thought occurred to both of them. Prince whispered. His younger brother, next in line for succession to the Hexapod throne, and one of only 3 beings in the galaxy who would automatically ascend to a position of increased power if both and were removed from the equation. We need proof, said, and we need to find out if he's still alive. Their planning was interrupted by the arrival of High Chancellor, the equivalent of a Prime Minister. The elderly alien's typically composed demeanor showed cracks of stress as he entered the medical bay. Your Majesty, I bring disturbing news from the interrogation. What have you learned? Prince Consort has confessed to conspiracy to commit regicide. He claims to have been planning your assassination for over a year, driven by political ambition and personal resentment. Felt his blood run cold. That's impossible, the evidence suggests. The evidence, interrupted sharply, suggests that a human guard is attempting to interfere with royal justice. You will return to your quarters immediately and await reassignment. High Chancellor, Queen said, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of absolute authority. Guard is here at my personal request. He will remain. His expression tightened. Your Majesty, with respect, the stress of the attack may be affecting your judgment. This human has been exposed to traumatic events and cannot be considered a reliable witness. He saved my life, replied coldly. His reliability is beyond question. Watched the exchange with growing unease. Something about eagerness to remove him from the situation felt wrong. High Chancellor, said carefully, was Prince Consort's confession obtained through technological means? The confession was voluntary. But was any technology involved in the interrogation process? Hesitated for just a fraction of a second. Standard procedures were followed. Looked at Queen, who had caught the same verbal evasion. Show me the confession recording, she ordered. Your Majesty, that may not be advisable given your emotional state. Show me the recording. Reluctantly activated a portable hollow projector. The image of appeared, sitting in the interrogation chamber, speaking in a monotone voice that bore no resemblance to his usual speaking patterns. I planned the assassination of Queen for political gain. I recruited assassins and coordinated their infiltration of the palace. I accept full responsibility for my actions. Felt sick watching the recording. That's not him. What do you mean? Demanded. The voice patterns, the speech rhythms, even his posture, none of it matches his normal behavior. He's either drugged or under some form of mental control. His forearms moved in agitation. Human psychology does not apply to hexapod behavior patterns. No, but stress responses do, and fear responses and coercion responses. Stepped closer to the hologram. Look at his hands. In the recording, 6 hands were trembling almost imperceptibly. He's terrified, continued. Not defiant, not angry, not resigned, terrified of what would happen if he didn't give that confession. Queen studied the recording with new eyes. High Chancellor, I want to speak with my husband immediately. Your Majesty, the prisoner has requested no contact with. I am not requesting, I am commanding. The confrontation was interrupted by the arrival of an emergency messenger, a young palace aide who burst into the medical bay with barely controlled panic. Your Majesty, High Chancellor, emergency communication from Hexapod Prime. And exchanged glances as accepted the priority message crystal. The High Chancellor's expression grew increasingly grim as he reviewed the contents. Well, demanded. There has been an incident on Hexapod Prime. Prince Residence was attacked by unknown assailants. He is missing and presumed kidnapped. Felt the final piece of the puzzle click into place, but not in the way he had expected. When did this attack occur? He asked. Check the timestamp. Approximately 8 hours ago. That's 2 hours after the assassination attempt here, noted. Your point? My point is that Prince's kidnapping happened after his supposed conspiracy failed, not before. Which means either he's not the mastermind, or someone is cleaning up loose ends. Queen stood up slowly, her medical monitoring devices chirping protests at the sudden movement. High Chancellor, I want a complete security review of everyone with access to royal protection protocols. Everyone with knowledge of palace defensive systems. Everyone who could have coordinated this level of infiltration. Your Majesty, such a review would necessarily include the highest levels of government, including this office. Yes, she said firmly, it would. The implication hung in the air like a poison cloud. Someone at the highest levels of the government had orchestrated an attack designed to eliminate the Queen and frame her husband for the crime. But if it wasn't Prince, then who? Studied High Chancellor's face, looking for any telltale signs of deception. The elderly's expression remained professionally neutral, but noticed something odd about his posture, a subtle favoring of his left arms over his right, as if he had suffered a recent injury. High Chancellor, said casually, I noticed you seem to be favoring your right arms. I hope you haven't been injured. A minor accident in my private quarters, nothing of consequence. But Queen was now studying her oldest advisor with new eyes. Show me your arms. Your Majesty. Your arms, remove your robe and show me your arms. The High Chancellor's hesitation lasted only a moment, but it was enough. Was already moving as hand went to a concealed weapon, but the elderly alien was faster than he appeared. A neural disruptor emerged from his sleeve, its energy field crackling with lethal potential. I'm sorry, Your Majesty, said, his voice now carrying the cold calculation that had been hidden beneath years of loyal service. But your reign has become an impediment to the greater good of the Empire. You breathed, you did this to you took his daughter. Is safe for now. Her continued well-being depends entirely on continued cooperation and your own compliance. Calculated distances and angles, but the neural disruptor's wide-angle beam made direct assault impossible. Instead, he activated his emergency beacon and began transmitting everything through his suit's recording systems. Why asked? 40 years you have served as my advisor, 40 years of loyal counsel. Loyal to the Empire, not to any individual ruler. Your policies of integration, of treating lesser species as equals, of giving humans positions of authority, they weaken us. They make us vulnerable. They make us stronger through diversity. They make us weak through dilution. Neural disruptor began charging for a lethal discharge. The Empire requires purity of purpose and hierarchy of species. Under my guidance, we will return to the proper order. Made his move during the weapon's charging cycle. He dove sideways, drawing attention and fire, while simultaneously triggering every emergency alarm in the medical bay. The neural disruptor's beam missed him by centimeters, searing a hole through the bulkhead behind him. The palace's automated defense systems responded instantly to the weapon's discharge in a medical facility. Emergency fields snapped into place, isolating the bay and summoning immediate security response. But had planned for this contingency. A hidden passage opened in the wall behind him, a passage that shouldn't have existed in the palace's construction plans. This isn't over, he called out as he retreated into the hidden corridor. The Empire will be purified with or without your cooperation. The passage sealed itself behind him, leaving and alone in the secured medical bay as the sound of approaching security teams echoed through the corridors. He has daughter, said, her voice hollow with realization. And now he has escape routes we didn't even know existed. Checked his suit's recording systems, everything had been transmitted to palace security. But now we have proof of who's really behind this, and we know is innocent. Knowledge is not the same as victory, replied grimly. Has been planning this for years. He knows our systems better than we do, and he has resources we can't even guess at. As security teams breached the medical bay and began securing the area, couldn't shake the feeling that they had won a battle but were still losing a war. Was gone, along with any immediate chance of rescuing daughter or fully clearing the prince consort's name. But they had something now they hadn't possessed before, the truth. And in experience, the truth had a way of shifting the balance of power when you least expected it. The real fight was just beginning. The war room beneath the palace had been activated for the first time in over a century. Its massive holographic displays showed star charts, troop movements, and communication intercepts from across the Empire. But despite all the advanced technology surrounding them, felt like they were fighting shadows. Has activated sleeper cells in 17 different systems, Supervisor On reported, his 4 arms manipulating data streams with practiced efficiency. Military commanders who have been loyal for decades are suddenly declaring independence from royal authority. Queen stood at the center of the chaos, her normally serene demeanor replaced by the focused intensity of a wartime leader. What about the rescue mission to retrieve? The strike team reached Hexapod Prime, but the facility was already abandoned, came the report from Admiral, a grizzled warrior whose loyalty was beyond question. They found evidence of recent occupation, but the prisoners were moved at least 2 days ago. Studied the tactical displays, looking for patterns that others might miss. His human perspective often caught details that alien minds overlooked, a fact that had earned him a temporary promotion to strategic advisor, a position unheard of for a human in military hierarchy. The sleeper cells, he said, drawing everyone's attention. They're not random, look at the pattern of activation. He gestured to the holographic star chart, highlighting the systems where forces had revealed themselves. They form a protective perimeter around something, not just random rebellion, they're guarding a specific location. Queen moved closer to study his analysis. You think that's where he's taken? I think that's where he's building his new power base, is just leverage to keep compliant. Speaking of which, Admiral interjected, the Prince Consort has been asking to see you, Your Majesty. The guards say he seems more lucid since deception was revealed. Nodded, arrange it. But first, I want to know what thinks about our overall strategic situation. Felt the weight of command attention, dozens of alien military officers looking to a human for strategic guidance. 3 years ago, he had been guarding doors. Now he was helping plan a war. His greatest advantage is that he knows all of our systems, protocols, and weaknesses, began. But that's also his greatest weakness. Explain. He's thinking like someone who's worked within the system for 40 years. His tactics are sophisticated but predictable to anyone who understands royal military doctrine. He's counting on us to respond according to established procedures. Admiral's massive form leaned forward. You're suggesting we abandon doctrine. I'm suggesting we use our greatest advantage, diversity, dismissed human capabilities because he sees us as inferior. He's made the same mistake with other species throughout his career. Activated a new display showing troop compositions and strategic assets. We have berserkers who can fight in conditions that would kill most species. We have engineers who can build impossible fortifications in hours. We have human soldiers who can operate independently and think creatively under pressure. And we have a queen whose people will follow her into the depths of space itself, Supervisor On added quietly. The meeting was interrupted by the arrival of an encrypted message from deep space. The transmission bore royal priority codes, but the source was listed as unknown. It's from's brother, Queen said after reviewing the message contents. Prince is alive, but he's been stripped of his titles and imprisoned by forces. He's offering information about's base of operations in exchange for rescue. It could be a trap, Admiral warned. Of course it's a trap, replied. But it's also our only lead to finding, and if we approach it knowing it's a trap, we can turn it to our advantage. Queen made the decision with the swift certainty that had made her an effective ruler. Prepare a rescue mission, but we do its way, not according to standard doctrine. The next 6 hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Found himself coordinating with species whose names he couldn't pronounce, planning operations using technology he barely understood, all while trying to adapt human military tactics to an interstellar scale. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Himself, finally free from mental conditioning, provided crucial intelligence about his brother's likely location and the layout of his hidden stronghold. It's a mining station in the nebula, explained during their planning session. Has been slowly converting it into a fortress over the past 5 years. I know this because I helped approve the resource allocations, thinking they were for legitimate mining operations. Defenses asked. Substantial, but focused on repelling large-scale military assault. He's not expecting a small infiltration team. Queen stood beside her husband, their relationship strained but not broken by recent events. She'll be in the command section, close enough for to use as a bargaining chip if needed. 6 arms moved in a gesture of determination. I'm going with the rescue team. Absolutely not, said firmly. You're still recovering from neural conditioning and she's my daughter, interrupted. No one knows the station layout better than I do, and no one has more reason to ensure the mission succeeds. Found himself in the unusual position of mediating between alien royalty. Your Highness, with respect, you're right about knowing the station. But you're also right that you're still recovering. What if we compromise? You guide us through planning and provide real-time intelligence during the mission, but you stay safe aboard the command ship. It was a reasonable compromise that satisfied no one completely, which had learned was often the hallmark of a good diplomatic solution. The rescue mission launched 18 hours later. Found himself aboard a stealth ship, leading a team that included engineers, warriors, and even a pair of humans from the palace security force. the first time humans had been included in a military operation as anything other than support personnel. The nebula provided natural cover for their approach, its swirling gases interfering with most detection systems. But as they drew closer to the mining station, began to suspect that their approach had been too easy. "I'm reading defensive satellites," reported the ship's navigator, "but they're not actively scanning. Either they're powered down or—" The ambush came from 3 directions simultaneously. Hidden warships around them, and the supposedly inactive defense satellites suddenly blazed to life with targeting scanners. "It was definitely a trap," said grimly as the ship shook under enemy fire. "Of course it was," replied Sergeant, the lead warrior. "But did they expect us to bring a human?" Activated the emergency beacon that would signal the second phase of their plan. Instead of a single rescue mission, they had prepared for a full assault, but one that would begin with what appeared to be a failed infiltration attempt. As their stealth ship was forced to surrender and was brought aboard the mining station, couldn't help but smile. Was about to learn why humans had earned a reputation as the most unpredictable species in the galaxy. The station's docking bay was filled with heavily armed guards, exactly as expected. What wasn't expected was Team's complete lack of resistance to capture. "Too easy," observed as he arrived to inspect the prisoners. The former High Chancellor looked older, more worn than remembered, as if the stress of rebellion was taking its toll. "Perhaps," replied, "or perhaps you're not as clever as you think you are." Approached him directly, his forearms gesturing in patterns that now recognized as signs of barely controlled anger. "You cost me the clean victory I had planned, human. The Queen should have died quickly and quietly. Instead, I have a war on my hands." "And you're losing it." "Am I?" Activated a holographic display showing military positions throughout the sector. "My forces control 17 systems. The Queen's influence shrinks daily as more commanders realize that the old ways are dying." Studied the display, nodding details that confirmed his earlier analysis. "You're not winning territory, you're just consolidating for a final stand." "Perhaps, but I have something the Queen wants very much." Led them deeper into the station, through corridors that had been heavily modified since their original construction. Made mental notes of defensive positions, guard rotations, and structural weaknesses, transmitting everything through the concealed beacon hidden in his equipment. They arrived at a heavily secured section of the station where Prince was indeed imprisoned, along with a young female hexapod who could only be. Both prisoners appeared unharmed, but exhausted. "As you can see," said, "I have kept my word regarding their treatment. They have been fed, sheltered, and protected from harm." "Protected from harm that you created," pointed out. "Protected nonetheless," moved closer to the containment field holding. "This young woman is the key to everything. As long as I possess her, will do anything I command, and through him I can control the Queen's actions." "You're assuming the Queen values family loyalty over duty to the Empire." "I'm counting on it. Emotional bonds are strong, but hexapod family connections are absolute. We'll watch the Empire burn before he allows harm to come to his daughter." Was about to respond when the first explosion echoed through the station's superstructure. His expression shifted from confident to concerned as alarms began blaring throughout the facility. "What was that?" The answer came in the form of Admiral's voice booming through the station's communication system. "Attention's forces. This is Admiral of the Royal Navy. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender immediately and you will be treated according to military law. Resist and you will be destroyed." His forearms moved frantically over control panels as he tried to assess the situation. "Impossible. My sensors show no significant fleet presence in this sector." Allowed himself a small smile. "That's because you were looking for a fleet. What you got was something much worse." The second phase of the assault began as berserkers, having been secretly deployed in mining pods disguised as debris, began cutting their way into the station's hull. Simultaneously, engineers activated concealed charges that began systematically disabling the station's defensive systems. But the final surprise was the most devastating. The seemingly captured rescue team activated concealed weapons and began their own assault from within the station's most secure areas. "You see," said as he used a hidden plasma cutter to free Prince, and humans have this annoying habit of refusing to stay defeated. The battle for the mining station lasted 3 hours. When it was over, his rebellion had been broken, his key supporters were dead or captured, and the former High Chancellor himself stood in restraints aboard Queen's flagship. "It's over," Queen said as she was reunited with and in the ship's main conference room. "His network has been dismantled, his supporters have surrendered, and the Empire is secure." But looking at the data streams from across space, wasn't entirely convinced. "Your Majesty, with respect, I think we've won the war but not the peace." "Explain." This rebellion revealed something important. There are elements within the Empire that see diversity as weakness rather than strength. This won't be the last challenge you face along those lines. Queen considered this. "What do you recommend?" Looked around the room at the assembled beings, hexapods, and humans working together in perfect coordination despite their vast differences. "I recommend we prove them wrong, not through conquest or domination, but through example. Show the galaxy that diversity doesn't weaken an empire, it makes it unstoppable." His arm around his daughter's shoulders nodded agreement. "The human speaks wisdom. We are stronger together than any of us could be alone." Queen smiled, the first genuine smile had seen from her since the crisis began. "Then that will be our path forward, diversity through strength, unity through respect." As the fleet set course for home, reflected on how much had changed since he first stood guard outside the royal chambers. He was no longer just guard Unit 7742. He was strategic advisor to the Queen and living proof that in a galaxy full of wonders, the most remarkable thing of all was what different species could accomplish when they chose to trust each other. The rebellion was over, but knew this was really just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of other species who had yet to learn what the Empire now understood. That true strength came not from purity, but from the courage to embrace the different, the strange, and the unexpected. In other words, it came from being willing to believe that even a human guard might have something valuable to offer. And sometimes that belief could save an empire,